welcome back. Well, if I'm here, it's hopefully a quick chemistry video in our kind of nomenclature quick chemistry videos. We are off to type 3 compounds today. Type 3 compounds are molecular compounds. And they're sometimes referred to also as covalent compounds, as they are actually sharing electrons in this case. Type 3 are actually two nonmetals together. And we actually do have sharing of electrons. And this type of naming is actually probably the easiest and quickest ones you should ever do. But unfortunately, a lot of people really do mess them up thinking, gotta be a little harder than that, right? And what we actually use with type 3, because we have sharing of electrons, there's no need to figure out charges or anything like that. If you watch the other videos that we did on nomenclature, and if you haven't, we'll put some links here, but this is finally the place where we actually use prefixes. So in this type of naming, we actually do use prefixes. We use mono for 1, di for 2, tri for 3, tetra for 4, penta for 5, hexa for 6, hepta for 7, octa for 8, maybe go more than that, I don't know, nona there for 9, maybe deca for 10, although you probably won't get too much into those, I imagine. So these are the prefixes that we use, and because there's no ions involved here, they're sharing electrons, there's really not too much to figure out other than pick the right prefix. So let's talk a little bit about these prefixes and some rules involved with them. Mono, first off, we do not use it on the first name, but it is okay on the second. What's the other rule? Well, the other rule is you sometimes will get two vowels, like an A and an O, or an O and an O that back up. This first vowel is from the prefix, and the second vowel is from the element name. And typically speaking, we get rid of the prefix vowel when we have that situation. So how do we name these? Well, when you have a type 3, all you have to do is take the prefix, if needed, for the first element, and then we actually use the whole name of the first element. The second element pretty much gets the non-metal name with the IDE, and again, we do use a prefix. So prefix if needed, whole name, prefix for the second element, IDE for the second element. So how does this work? Well, we go C, we go O, we identify what we got going on. That's carbon, which is a non-metal. That's oxygen, which is a non-metal. That automatically, you should be happy because that is a type 3. Nothing really to figure out in this case. We just basically need to pick the right prefix. So 1 carbon means mono. We do not use mono on the first name, so instead we just use the element name. 1 oxygen, also mono. We can use it on the second name, so that is mono. The element gets the IDE treatment, and we end up with something like carbon monoxide. Doesn't sound so right. Why does it not sound right? Well, if I look closely, it got me 2 oxygens that backed up to each other. So this is the situation I was talking about a second ago. In this situation, we get rid of the first oxygen there, and we end up with the proper name, carbon monoxide, not monoxide here. So AO, get rid of the A. OO backs up, get rid of the O. Oddly, 2 I's seem to be okay, but that's okay in most cases. So let's take a look at a couple more here. We got like a little N2O5. Again, I look at it, non-metal, non-metal. That tells me type 3. Nothing to figure out, but let's just choose the right prefix. 2 prefix is di, and whole name of the element, which is nitrogen. So dinitrogen. Prefix for 5 is penta. Second element gets the IDE treatment. Here again, we're going to actually drop the A off of the prefix because that would give us an A and an O that backs up to each other. And again, we'll get rid of that. So dinitrogen pentoxide in this case. CCl4, non-metal carbon, non-metal chlorine, type 3. 1 carbon, mono is the prefix. Do not use on the first name. Carbon, prefix for 4 is tetra. And again, the second one gets the IDE treatment there. So a little carbon tetrachloride. I2O7, non-metal, non-metal, type 3, prefix time. 2 is di, 7 is penta. And again, diiodine, the whole name there of the first element. Again, the 2 I's are okay. Pentaoxide for the second. We do drop the A, and pentoxide here gives us our proper name. So super simple, nothing to balance, no charges. Pick the right prefixes, adjust any kind of awkward spelling, and you'll be in good shape. Now, what is probably the quickest in all nomenclature, dare I say, you're given an actual formula. So this is, say you add dinitrogen trioxide, whatever the heck that may be, huh? As soon as you see those prefixes, you should be really happy because that means type 3 all day and nothing to figure out. You're frankly just going to write what it says. Di is 2, nitrogen is N, so an N and a 2. Tri is 3, oxygen is O, O3, and they're done. Nothing to balance in that case. We have oxygen, pentabromide. Again, making up stuff that might not exist, but just for illustration purposes. No prefix there, but I do see a prefix here. It tells me it's type 3. Oxygen on the first name with no prefix means I just have 1. Penta is 5. Bromine is Br5. Again, should a matter of seconds have that. So type 3, super simple, where we actually do use prefixes, and you just got to watch out for those couple of things. Now, there are a few sort of non-metals that we always go by common name. Clearly H2O in most cases. Nobody's trying to trick you. That is water. No dihydrogen monoxide here, hopefully. NH3, which is not to be confused with the polyatomic ion, which is ammonium. This is ammonia. Should always go by that name. And probably for most of you, CH4, which is the simplest organic molecule you could have, which is methane. So those guys go by their common names. Everybody else goes prefixes in type 3. And remember, as we also talked about, even though hydrogen, like in the case of HCl, non-metal, hydrogen is a little bit special. It's sort of thought of as a type 1 metal, even though technically it's a non-metal. So in terms of naming, again, we still call this hydrogen chloride. We don't use prefixes with it because it's hydrogen is a little bit special. All right, well, that's a quick wrap up there of type 3, probably the quickest, easiest, and fastest naming you should be able to do. We hope this video helps you. And again, please let me know if there's anything you'd like to hear about in terms of chemistry topics in the comments. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.